did things before. I remember very vividly about consolidations of 40 years ago, but times were different. Mayor Alexander, County Executive Mulroy, at the time, they got members of the Common Council and the county legislature, and what they did was they formed committees. So they took MacArthur Stadium, and the mayor would say, you know what, this is a county facility. We don't have as much money. This was Alexander's plea. We don't have as much money as the county did. So they set up a commission. And what the city of Syracuse did, they sold the stadium, and it was being renovated with county and state funds. They gave it to county for 1 cent. 1 cent. They worked on consolidation of the libraries. Why? Because county residents were coming into the city to use the libraries. So what elected officials did, they worked together, they got committees, and I remember very vividly what they were doing with the city library system. And with the zoo was falling apart. So they had committees. There was a difference from 40 years ago compared to today. The difference is, unfortunately today there is polarization of politics. And you can't get away from that fact. The city and the county then worked together. There was no polarization as you see today because of that polarization. You could come up with these recommendations, but I'm sure some elected officials will start a campaign saying, if this goes through, your taxes are going to go up, your services are going to be eliminated. I could see this happening now. There will be a campaign, there will be a political campaign on it. Now, to go back what Mark said about education, a perfect example. In the town of Salina, if you live in Linkcourt, you could take your child to Linkcourt Elementary School, middle school, even though it's small. But when that child becomes 14, 15, has to go to high school, where does that child go? Goes West Genesee, it goes to Salve. All right? So right now, there is because, and I'm not knocking anyone, the town of Salina, supervisors are on this commission. They should be working on it and saying, you know what? This is why we need consolidation. It doesn't make sense. I got to take a 14-year-old kid who lives in Linkcourt, and he's got to be bused into Salve, which doesn't make sense. I know of parents who are willing to pay the money to the city of Syracuse to send their kids to Henniger, or go out and they'll go to a private school. So again, what Mark was saying about education, sometimes when you look at a commission, sometimes it's easy to just pass it off. But again, when you have city residents, village residents, the need of consolidation, you can't have the kids who live in Linkcourt being bused anymore. So this is the purpose of consolidation. I agree, but we have to handle education as well.
I totally agree on education. We'll make sure to carry that point back. There is not a meeting, by the way, from the very first day that we started the consensus process. Typically, education is the first question that's asked, right? It's asked multiple times. This issue has come up. I'm not going to say that our process was perfect. I think the decisions that we and the commission made were, frankly, because of resources and other things, a product of necessity. I think the work that we're doing is good, but no doubt we have to continue to focus on the education issue. As it relates to polarization, let me just speak to that for a moment. Nobody, I don't want to say nobody, but very few people in this community probably work harder than Kathy Murphy, to some extent myself, other members of the commission, to try to keep our elected officials working together, focused on the very biggest picture of what's in the best interest of our community. We can do it until we're blue in the face. We're one stakeholder or two stakeholders out of 450,000. All of you represented in this room are even as more impactful. The extent to which people are engaged in carrying that message to our elected officials, I think that's important. Listen, I don't care what political environment, I don't care whether it's 2016 or 2018 or 2027, there will always be what I would call, differences of political opinion and pensions and people in different parties out to do whatever it is that they're going to do. But there will also always be something that's frankly in the long-term best interest of the community. What we're trying to stay focused on, despite some of the challenges that we're having, gonna stay focused on the big picture, right? What is it that can put our community in a better foot economically? I'll tell you, I was terrified, absolutely terrified last year. I spent 8 days, 9 days in China on a business trip, working to recruit business and develop some export relationships. And some of the growth and development that you see on the other side of the world in a place that 40 years ago was a third world country, that in 1970 had a per capita income of $128 per capita, right? The wealth that I saw there was astounding. The development, 264 cranes in the sky in one city that's considered to be a small or mid-sized city in China. This is what's happening in other parts of the world. It's not happening here. And I'm not gonna say that our governmental structures are the only reason it's not happening, right? But we have a huge opportunity to capture a greater share of that global growth, and I want that here, right? And so if this is something we can do to make ourselves better, then I think we ought to try to figure out how to work together and build a solution and come up with a recommendation that people can agree on that will help us be a little bit more competitive, because it is a scary competitive world out there, and everybody is scrapping and clawing for every business they can get, every startup they can get, every manufacturer, every ag producer, every transportation depot. And we need to do a better job of winning more of those and putting more people to work here in Central New York.